Welcome to Ma's Garage. I'm Kev.
I'm Crick.
And I'm Smokey.
Understand the boundaries of what the other person's willing to take, right? That's where the friendship comes in. You know what they can handle.
You accept that person for who they are. You don't expect them to be something that they're not. You accept them for the person they are because of all the qualities about them that you appreciate.
If your one companion is not compatible with you, there's 1.5 billion other people that you can try the test.
And on today's episode, we're going to talk about love and companionship.
So grab a log
and join us by the fire.
That friendship and that companionship, the people around you who you can share those life experience with to better understand life. Kind of like this show, you know what I mean? There's so much topics in this show that I think about and that are in my head, but I don't express them out loud. But when I talk with you guys about them, you ask me questions, you dive deeper. Like I've had somebody tell me this about the show. What they think is that it's interesting to see, especially men, be so comfortable talking about such sensitive topics or such deep topics and be comfortable enough with one another to have that conversation. I couldn't do that with any stranger. I feel like I'm getting better at doing that with strangers because I have those conversations with you guys. But that takes a certain special relationship on its own to do that, you know? And so like, that's where I really appreciate you guys. My best friend and a good best friend is what I consider a best friend is someone who I can call at 1 o'clock in the morning and you'll answer.
Yeah. Bobby, hang on a minute.
And you'll be there and you'll talk me through some shit because you know that I'll do the same for you. That's a best friend, not 30 people who aren't going to pick up the phone who I see all the time. Like that's to me not a best friend.
They're called colleagues, right? What's the difference between a colleague, an acquaintance, and a friend? Is there a difference?
I feel like a friend is someone who has your best interest in mind. And an acquaintance is someone who can be who you spend a lot of time with, but
may not necessarily have your best interest.
Right.
And a colleague is just someone.
A colleague is someone that you know that you have a mutual connection through a secondary organization.
And they can jump between, like, you know, we've had people who were colleagues that became good friends. Like,
of course,
Zach, who I moved out to Colorado with, like he was my co-manager, and then we lived together for 5 years. 5 years. That's a long time to live with somebody. We definitely got in our squabbles and stuff like that, you know, but that's going to happen with anybody. It's if you can get past that. Just like me and you, Kev, we live together too. That's a hard thing to do with people. You realize that when you live with somebody who you get along with, it like, and you'll go through little squabbles. But when you live with someone who you don't get along with, it shows you how much more important those relations are. The ones that you could push through all that stuff. The ones you could sit down and be like, hey, this is what you're doing that's pissing me off. What am I doing that's pissing you off? How do we get along in the same, you know, environment?
The ability to communicate without just hating each other instantly.
Right.
Like a relationship shouldn't be on the balance all the time, right?
Exactly. That's where I think a part of that being a friendship compared to an acquaintance or a colleague is also acceptance. Like you accept that person for who they are. You don't expect them to be something that they're not. You accept them for the person they are because of all the qualities about them that you appreciate.
It's deep. That's a deep one. But it makes sense. It makes total sense.
And especially you think about, for example, people living with friends that they've known for a very long time and how in the beginning things could have been rocky. Even though you guys have known each other for a very long time, things are still going to be a little bit rocky. You're getting to know each other and like learn each other.
A lot of boundaries are broken down when you live together. It's just like being in a relationship. You may think you like somebody, but then when you live with them, just the fact of them clipping their nails, their little isms, their little things that like can start to drive you nuts. That's how you can show if you like them.
It's rocky in the beginning, but you give it enough time that you can smooth out the bumps.
Right.
I'm not saying that you should be with someone forever if you've got those red flags that it just appears to you that this is not going to work out. But if it's like you had said, if it's something that you feel like you can work through, make that attempt as opposed to pulling the ejector seat.
Right. Does the good outweigh the bad? I think that's the same with friendships and like what do you call it? Romantic relationships. Like you gotta, it's when as soon as that bad starts to outweigh that good is when you really start to need to check in and be like, is this a relationship I want to keep up? Is this good for myself and my mental health? And because if you're with somebody who's putting you down more, that can affect the long term of your life. That can affect how you see yourself, that can affect how you act, how you treat yourself.
All those little seeds start to grow.
Especially from someone who you trust.
Mhm.
And they're putting you down, that's really going to affect your self-image.
There has to be a difference, and it has to be known between two people when you are being mean and when you are positively pushing.
Yeah. And understand the boundaries of what the other person's willing to take, right?
Right.
That's where the friendship comes in. You know what they can handle.
At the end of the day, you're spending your time with this person, you're combining your energy with this person. Like, choose the person that you have those qualities that actually wants to be in your company and combine your energy.
You can almost look at a relationship as like an atom, and either it's an unstable atom that's going to blow itself up, or you find that equilibrium where it's just like harmonic.
Right. I think that goes back to your intent. You know what I mean? Like if the thing that you're trying to change about them is the reason you're trying to change it is to make your life easier or to make their life easier. It's not
or both,
that,
right?
or both. Exactly. It
That
can also
is
be both.
a very good point.
But if you're just doing it because you want them to be more easy to live around for you, like that's not for their benefit. That's not for their good. That's you being selfish. Understand that they're an individual and some things they can't change. That's just who they are.
I think a lot of
Mhm.
people forget that a relationship is give and take.
Yes.
You go into this because you like that person the way they are, not because they're the person you think you could make them into.
100%.
And then people have other factors like biological time clock per se that they feel like they're running out of options.
That's
Yeah.
that comes into the dating scene. That's where like at this point now where I'm in my 30s, like trying to find a relationship, it's interesting because like part of you is like it's the clock ticking. You need to find someone because the older you get, that pool's only getting smaller and smaller. And but the thing is you still have to but you still gotta find someone who relates with you. You can't just settle. You can't just find whatever's going to fit at that moment. Like you have to find someone who truly accepts you for you and wants you to grow. And like that's more important than just being in a relationship. Even though sometimes you feel like you really need that companionship, like it gets lonely. It's there's great things about being single and being able to be like okay with yourself and alone on your own. That's important. But there's things that you miss, and sharing experiences and not having someone to tell the good and bad parts of your days with and explore that with, and just someone to even like hold at night. Like cuddling is just miss that shit. You know what I mean? So it's like to appreciate that. There's things that I appreciate now being single about being in a relationship that I kind of took for granted. And there's probably things that when I'm in a relationship, I'm going to notice about being single that I'll take for granted.
Grass is always greener, right?
It is. It's a lesson I learned time and time
it's
again.
all about going through those experiences.
Right. That's what I think it is. It's like the good and the bad, like experience life. Like it's going to be the hardships. You're going to be single at points. You're going to be lonely at points, and like take that in and learn from it what you can. Learn from why you're lonely. Why do you feel the way that you do?
If you're someone that values your companionship, like you just cannot be alone, it's okay that you have your companion, but also don't forget that there's 1.5 billion other companions out there.
Exactly.
The world is a really big
If
place.
your one companion is not compatible with you, there's 1.5 billion other people that you can try the test.
Yeah. I think that ties in confidence, like confidence in yourself and
Does.
self-love.
It really, really does. Because if
And-
someone has low self-confidence and low self-esteem with themselves, any one person that gives them any attention, positive or negative,
Bravo! You are the most worthless piece of primordial ooze I have ever seen! But I'll give you one chance to prove yourself. Try to overcome me!
How nice of you to join me, my little non-commissioned mamacita. You know, you've got some of the prettiest battle scars I've ever seen.
they're latching.
Right.
They're
And you have
latching
to-
and they're making kids.
they can get you into a situation like that where they begin to demean your self-confidence because they're not the vision that they want you to be. So they're going to belittle you because you're not living up to their expectations. And that doesn't mean that you're not a great person and that you're not capable of amazing things, but it can give you the inner dialogue that you're not living up to a standard that you need to because it's not their standard. And that's why I think it's so important to establish what is okay with who you are. Like, who am I? My flaws, my strengths, everything about me. Establish that. So that way when you get in a relationship and someone calls you out, be like, well, that's just what you don't like. You know what I mean? If this is who I am. And there's certain things where it's that give and take. And I will change to be less like that to be better for you because there's so much other things that I love about you and that you love about me. But still, essentially, I can't, you can be better versions of yourself, but you'll always be you. You're not going to change somebody completely. And they can work to be like, they can work on their addiction and the way that they hide their flaws and the ways that they cope with things. And, you know, we're all flawed and we can grow, but let something grow and not expect to just change them.
And let them gradually grow.
Yes. It's a
They
process.
don't. It doesn't have to be exponential.
But understand when you're being manipulated by somebody because they know you're desperate. Don't let people talk to you that way.
100%.
Don't let people demean you because understand everybody has some form of self-worth. Like, you are good at something.